The Acolyte true cost is confirmed. That's right. As if we didn't already know, our friends at That Park Place, the Acolyte true cost confirmed $250 million for canceled Disney Star Wars disaster. I think it was 230. Do you have the notes for the story?
Yes.
Please.
Yeah, well, when That Park Place first revealed in September that Disney's Star Wars series, The Acolyte, had surpassed 230 million in costs, fan wondered how high the total would climb. Now, according to journalist Jonah J. Campbell, hey Jonas, the final figure before tax credits and excluding marketing hit a staggering 254 million. Campbell posted on X, remember when Leslie Headland said Acolyte costs 170? She was correct if you only count spending through September 2023 in pounds, British pounds. I can now confirm that the Walt Disney Company spent $254 million on the Acolyte before marketing and tax credits. Headland's 170 estimate was entirely false. It was incomplete for the one season of the TV show that flopped. The Acolyte's budget was, as one article noted, a breathtaking sum, especially one that failed to gain traction with audiences and was quickly canceled. The series had promised a fresh feminist take on Star Wars, but instead delivered a story that demonized father figures and relied on identity politics as both shield and sword. Let's see. And I think, let me see. In contrast, Luminate's official streaming tally showed the show brought in 2.5 billion minutes watched, failing far behind Netflix Love is Blind, which logged 7.3 billion minutes in the same year.
Well, first of all, everyone guessed this. This isn't a shocker. This isn't a surprise. I mean, I think when we did originally our coverage of The Acolyte and reviewed the series, that was the number that we had. Not even sure where we got it, but everyone was reporting it. I mean, I, for one, I don't know how much of a fan you are, Alan, but I, for one, have the Acolyte figures here. Here they are from the Hasbro Pulse Direct website. I have, and they're in the classic kind of Kenner style packaging. Well, it says Kenner on there. So, I'm a fan. I hope they make season 2, but
I hope someone makes season 2.
I mean, I think it shows you, and that show looked terrible. It looked like it was shot in the volume. It looked like it had cheap sets. Compare that with Andor, whatever you think of these series, like or dislike. Acolyte was spent poorly by an inexperienced producer, and Andor looked probably the best Star Wars has ever looked since the OT. It
By the
just
way,
looked amazing.
The Acolyte was not shot in the volume. Those were practical sets.
But they looked terrible.
I know. At last year at the Catalina Film Festival, one of the actresses was there, and she talks about stepping on the set of The Acolyte for the first time, and I think the impression she had was, where did all this money come from? Because she realized how detailed it was and how expensive it was. And again, I think the most important question is, how did this happen, and why was nobody fired? Why was no one at the head of Lucasfilm fired for allowing a show to run, for its budget to run rampant like this and cost hundreds of millions of dollars? And if you are a stockholder, this just goes against the value of your stock at this point.
Well, you know who was very cost conscious when it came to making Star Wars movies? George Lucas.
Yeah.
Because, in fact, Lucas, money-wise, let's go through. He forfeited much of his fee to make the first Star Wars movie so he could hold on to sequel and merch rights. Turned out to be a very smart choice. He personally funded and got a bank loan for which he was responsible for to make The Empire Strikes Back. He bet everything. He was always looking for ways to, how can I make this great, but at a reasonable cost? How can I make this look amazing? How can I achieve this effect, impossible effect, but do it in a responsible manner? And that's because George Lucas, through his father, learned to be a businessman. He was, in the end, if you're an indie filmmaker, which George Lucas, it was really the heart of an indie filmmaker and made indie movies before Star Wars. You're an entrepreneur. Your reps, your money is on the table. You care more about these decisions. And when you're a producer that's got all the money in the world from Disney, you spend carelessly and irresponsibly. And it really, I mean, when you look at the filmmakers who succeed in Hollywood best, they all, for the most part, come from indie film because they took that huge risk, because they knew that, I mean, their livelihood was at stake. The money that was on the line was their money. I know because I've done it. So, I mean, I'm just about to put out a movie I made 20 years ago called My Big Fat Independent Movie. We're doing a deluxe Blu-ray edition. We'll do sort of a one-night theatrical screening of it. It's I remember how I felt at that time making Attack of the Doc. Luckily, I had money from a crowdfund, a Kickstarter, but I also had to spend money of my own out of my pocket. The money we got paid for some of it, not nearly all of it, plus getting the Blu-rays done. So I know what this is like, and filmmakers would be wise if you're pursuing a career in Hollywood. I don't know. You don't need that Hollywood degree, that college degree. Go to film school for a bit. Check it out. Hey, these are the books I have to read. I'll read those books. I don't have to go to school to prove to you I read that book. Go out and spend what you would have spent on a master's. Just make a feature film. Make mistakes, take it on the festival circuit. You will learn so much when everything is on the line. But I really think that this is why these corporate films turn out so corporate series, movies, whatever, turn out so poor for the most part, or soulless or uninspired, because they've got all this money. And I'm sure from the looks of it, Leslie Headland hired her partner,
her lover,
hired her friends, and paid them very well. And that's great. But you know what? In the end, the series, now I have no problem with her actually making The Acolyte. Don't change a word of that script. Don't change anything, but make it for 20 mil. See if you can do that. And you can have Acolyte 10 seasons. You do it that cheaply. The reason there wasn't a season 2 is because they spent too much. She is the woman who spent too much. That should be a title, like the man who's something, like an old film noir, the woman who spent too much. Anyways, final thoughts, Alan. We'll go to comments.
Yeah, I'm just looking things up here, but George Lucas spent $115 million on Phantom Menace, Attack of Clones, and Revenge of the Sith each. And then if you adjust for inflation, we're looking at the most expensive was Phantom Menace at $220 million, and then ranges down to like 185. Yeah, it's like, when you say George Lucas knew how to spend money, he did, and he also understood the payback, the return on investment, which, I don't know who thought that they could make. Let's say the goal was to double the production cost. So how do you make $500 million on Disney Plus? I mean, who is running this company? Who are asking the important questions? And why is nobody fired at the top? I mean, it's a monumental.
Ultimately, they didn't do a season 2, so nobody was So
But still,
they were in effect. I mean, you're freelance. You're not really fired. You're just
yeah.
not asked back.
But to say, I mean, what other television series is like this? You know, what they're investing $250 million in what they think are multiple seasons of the Acolyte. I mean, that must have been the justification. But who there read the scripts, understood the story, saw that? Well, I mean, Kathleen Kennedy did, and thought that, yeah, $250 million to start this franchise. That's insane. You usually start lower and then add more money as you have a
Well,
specific series.
you've got the sets and costumes, and the design work was done, so the cost is amortized. And the second season ultimately should cost
Right.
less, but so they
Mhm.
really invested in this. It was really about the High
Or
Republic.
worse, someone read the script and said, "This is a $250 million production."
Well, that someone should get fired.